Estamos grabando.
Good morning to everyone. The reason for this video is to hopefully bring some awareness to what's the current stage of the Dominican baseball. In the Dominican Republic, in Venezuela, in Colombia, and other countries in the international market. The reason that we've gotten to this point was a few years back, MLB, in trying to stop the increase in the amount of bonuses that we're giving out to Cuban players that were coming into the Dominican Republic and elsewhere, put a cap on the amount that MLB clubs could spend for their international market. Well, that was a plan that went haywire very quickly. And the reason it did that is they put a cap, but that cap is the existing cap every year. So by doing that, what they did is they created an atmosphere where now me as a scout, okay, let's say I'm still scouting, I know how much money I can spend on a yearly basis. So if I go out, and it started very, very rapidly and escalated, I went out and the current rules issued by MLB Baseball, just so you guys know it, is you have to be 16 to sign on July 2nd, and you have to turn 17 prior to August 31st. If you don't turn 17 before August 31st, and you can't sign that particular year, you go to the next year. So now that we know that 16 to 17-year-old is the basic age for a player to sign in Latin America. Now, once this thing was done and players were able to sign, clubs knew the money they had. They started signing 15-year-olds because a scout is no different than a policeman, a fireman, scientist. You do what you're getting paid to do and what you love to do. So what happened very quickly, it escalated in this form. They started 15-year-olds, okay? So we got rid of all the 15-year-olds. Now I have no more money for my class of 15-year-olds. So am I going to go 2 years without signing any players? Because when I wake up in the morning, I'm out to sign a player. No, we went on to sign 14-year-olds. Okay, so once they got done with the 14-year-olds, you think they stopped at 14. No, they did not stop at 14. They went on to 13. So we started signing players that are 13 years old. Now you say 13, are you crazy? No, we went on to sign 12-year-olds. So basically, all of the sudden, and all of you guys that are gonna watch this video, that have played Little League Baseball, that have coached, that are fans of baseball, that are dads that went to Little League Baseball, that are coaches, ex-players, everybody knows there was someone in Little League at 12 years old that was the most unbelievable player in Little League. He was the shit. As we got into high school and further on, that player, for most of the part, didn't even make the high school team. And if he did, he wasn't a big piece of the baseball team. But all of a sudden, in Latin America, we now know who the best prodigy is going to be at 12 years old and at 13 and at 14 or at 15. And what happens is the 16-year-old in this country and in Venezuela and in Colombia and in Panama is no longer worth a penny. This guy whose brain is still not complete, whose growth spurt is not complete, who is entering what would be his sophomore year in the United States, is no longer considered a prospect by any clubs. for several reasons. Number one, the roster is complete because they start signing guys left and right without knowing who's going to be available in 21, who's going to be available in 22. All of us that scouted in the States knew every year without fail, there'd be a call from the front office. Hey, there's a phenom somewhere in Kentucky, in Georgia. Somebody just popped up. Okay, this happened every year, which meant that from one year to the next, the guy got better. But this can't happen in this country. But we do know who the best next 12-year-old superstar is going to be. We get 5% of the draft right, and we're signing guys. If they're college guys, we saw them play for 4 years of high school and 3 years of college. We can't get 50% of them right. But we sign guys out of high school in the first and second round, and take a look and see what a percentage of those guys make it to the big leagues. But now, here, with the knowledge of the front office, okay, with the knowledge of ownership, because I was director of Latin America for 2 clubs, okay, you do not give $3 million and $4 million to a kid without ownership knowing about it. I guarantee you that. It has to go through the front office, it has to go through the assistant, has to go through the general manager, and it has to go through ownership for this to get approved. So I'm asking ownership, have they lost their mind? Okay, since when? Because when I was scouting, if I went into my owner, which was Mr. Steinbrenner, and told him I wanted to sign a 12-year-old and give him $3 million, he wouldn't laugh at me. He never laughed me out of the room. He probably kicked my butt out of the room. But now, we we're sure who the 12 and 13 and 14-year-olds that are going to play in the big leagues. Now, you say, how can MLB let this go on? They know this is going on. How do I know? I've told them several times. We've provided a list. They know because as soon as that player is taking, they're calling the player in to get tested for doping. So it is a well-known thing that MLB knows that illegally, this is going on. Now, is there a contract signed? No, there's no contract signed. But I have checked with several legal people, and they have said a verbal agreement, once it's concluded, is as good as any agreement. In other words, if I offer to make a deal for a building on Fifth Avenue, and at a cost of whatever it is, in 1922, and in 1922 that deal gets done, okay, that was a formal deal. So a verbal deal is an agreement. Furthermore, here's the situation that is so damaging, okay? What happens to this 12 and 13, 14, 15-year-old when he signs? He cannot play professionally until he's 17 years old. So what happens to him is he will stop all tournaments. He no longer goes to Panama, Mexico, or he plays in a big crowd in front of all the scouts, or he plays in front of competition because they're afraid he's going to get hurt. Who's afraid? The father's afraid, okay? Because the guy's got $3 million. If he gets hurt, he doesn't pass the physical. So the team is afraid, okay? Sometimes they're afraid because they're afraid another team sees the player and sees that he's worth more money and will try to get involved in the player. It's very seldom does that happen, but it's possible for it to happen. Why doesn't the player play? Everybody is looking after. The main concern is for the player to stay healthy. Now, anyone who's ever played any sport, whether it's been professionally or it's been amateur or it's been just a hobby, you tell me how you get better at anything in life. when you stop playing, and you stop playing with pressure, and you stop playing on a competitive level, how does your pitch recognition, how does your pitch selection, how does your ability to play under pressure to make a play? Okay, this prodigy that you signed at 12 years old, you know he's going to be, when the bases are loaded and you're at the state finals in high school, that he can make this perfect play and make not rattle and not get rattled or get the base hit when he needs to. No, you don't know that because you stopped his progress at the age of whatever it was that you signed him, whether it was 12, 13, 14, or 15. So basically what we're doing here, fans, is we're telling that kid, who, by the way, might be a 7th, 8th, 9th, or 10th grader, you will no longer play on the high school team, okay? If the kid, you know, because a 12-year-old kid is in 7th grade. So you will no longer play in competition until you become 17, at which time we're going to send you to the toughest league you have ever played in, 5 years, or 4 years, or 3 years, okay? So this is what's transpiring here. And I wanted to share this with the public. I want someone to take responsibility for this mess, because the kids are the ones that are getting hurt. Ladies and gentlemen, I have to look at the face of kids here every day at age 15 and 16 and say they have no money for you. They don't want you. They want you to sign for $10,000. But I'm only 15. They get them, that money's gone. It's spent. Both the Players Association and MLB know full well this is going on, because I personally have informed them, along with many other people. Now, the main reason behind MLB is to get an international draft, which I'm all for it, with certain conditions applied. The last time, which it failed, they came here with zero information and just trying to shove the draft through people's throat without informing all the people involved how they were going to proceed to go about this, okay? As you understand, if you have a draft here in the Dominican Republic, it's going to work in a different way. Why? Well, first of all, if I'm going to Miami High School and you draft me and I have a scholarship for Florida or for the University of Miami or for Florida State, I could choose to go to one of those 3 schools and continue my education and continue to get better as a baseball player. If we have a draft here and you drafted in the first round and we don't have a slot set where that kid in that round is going to get X amount of dollars, he will not get paid what he should get paid. And where's he going to go? He's not going to Stanford. He's not going to USC. He's got no other option. So this is one of the things that we need to figure out before we can have an international draft. Okay, now it's been proposed, it's been thrown out there, 5.5 for the best international, that means the best player in all the world it can get up to $5.5 million. Yet the budget in the United States for the entire draft is $12 million. The first round pick overall in the United States gets $9 million. You want to give the best international, in other words, you want to give the best player in the world $5 million. And you're going to give some player over there $9 million. Now, keep in mind, there are no 19 or 20-year-olds from the States playing baseball in the big leagues right now. They're all coming from Latin America. Not only are they playing at 19 or 20 in the big leagues, they're in the middle of the lineup. They're impacting the results of the team. Rafael Devers, Soto, Vladimir Guerrero, #1 prospect in baseball, Wander Franco, at 18, hit .339 in the Florida State League. He's a high school kid hitting almost .340 in the Florida State League. So you cannot possibly tell me you're going to give the best player in the world $5 million when you know he's going to get to the big leagues at 19, and you're giving somebody else $9 million who is signing at 21. By the time these kids are 21 and 22, they're signing for 150, 180 million. So I would like to bring, number one, to the attention that this is costing. You're not going to see this, but if you're the Players Association, you understand this. One of the reasons you didn't want to draft is because players were getting to the big leagues at 19 and 20, so you can get into the second contract at a younger age. This will stop. The reason these players were getting there at that age is because they remain playing under pressure all the way through the time of their legally signing age. They had to play under pressure in Panama, in these tournaments with 300 scouts, in front of all these people, every single week up until the day of their legal draft, which was July 2nd. Okay? Now what you're doing is you're putting a halt on the 12, 13, and 14-year-old. He will no longer take at bats. He will no longer play in front of people. Do you think that player is going to be at the same level that the player that was playing at the World Championship games in Panama, or was playing at the World Championships in Mexico or in Colombia, or was playing in front of tournaments that MLB would put together where 350 scouts would come all the way through the end? No. That player's not going to be anywhere near as good. He hasn't had a single game at bat in 3 or 4 years. So you're not going to see the result of this, because the player that signed already for 2022, who has already signed, or for 2021, will not play until 2022. We're talking about 3 or 4 years ago. So this will take time, but you will feel it if you don't change and you let these current conditions continue to play itself out, and you know that this is going on, and you're just sitting there, and you're a baseball guy, and you're telling me you care about kids, and you care about what's going on, then you will find out what the result of this is going to be in 4 or 5 years, because it ain't going to be a good one. And that's all I like to say. You guys have a good night, and we'll be here. We'll be here. Thank you, y'all.